psychopathic technocrat, Bill Gates. And in terms of what we need to do, it might sound a bit esoteric, I don't care. But, you know, if you, this is a process I've been through. I can only describe my experience. If you process everything through your head and your belly, the emotions, you will, first of all, be very prone to fear. And fear freezes. Fear means I'll do as I'm told. I'll acquiesce. And it will give you every reason why you shouldn't act. And because this is asking the question, what are the consequences for me of doing this? There's another point here of perceptual connection. I talked about the fact, this is mainstream science, that we live in a narrow band of frequency called visible light, which is so tiny, it's almost laughable. And visible light is the only frequency band that we see. It's the only visual world is all within this tiny band. And beyond it is infinity of consciousness, of realities, all of it. But we are stuck on this one television channel. And the head is connected to this channel. The head perceives everything through the five senses, and the five senses are connected to this channel. So if you only come from the five senses, this channel is all you will ever perceive, and it's all you will ever get your fix on reality from. And this has been the game. This is how the cultures work this, because it's all psychological, is they have manipulated people to perceive only through the five senses, which is basically their head. And to isolate our perception in this narrow band of frequency and then control the information we receive within that frequency. This is control of the media, control of Silicon Valley and all this stuff, control of education, which is indoctrination. And so what they're doing is they're isolating our consciousness in this narrow band and then programming that isolated consciousness with a perception of reality. This is the human world. And it's because of this programmed perception that people are so, not all of them, but it is changing, but the vast majority are so predictable. I call them press enter people. I go around the world, bloody used to, and I see different cultures, but in certain situations, you see people reacting the same way. It's like a program. It is a software program. But this here, there's a vortex here, which they call it in the East a chakra, wheel of light, because actually on an energetic level, that's what it looks like. And this is the true spiritual heart. It has an effect on the physical heart, but this is the true heart. You know, the connection that people have between the heart and love, it doesn't come from the physical heart, although they do that, obviously, in the symbol. It comes from this. And what is love? People think love is, oh, I love you, darling. Well, that's one level of it. But love is beyond that. Love will always do what it knows to be right, irrespective, indeed it doesn't even consider consequences. Because to consider consequences would be to consider not doing what you know to be right. And love, the heart connection that takes you out of this five-sense reality, where you can access other levels of perception that gives you a much greater understanding of the reality that you are Experiencing, when you operate only through the five senses, you are in this world and you are of this world. When you operate from here, you are in this world physically, but you are of a much more expanded world in terms of your perception of the reality you're experiencing. So when people go through this heart opening process, suddenly they look at the same world they were looking at before, looks totally bloody different. You've been through it, I've been through it. It's like, this is not the same world that I was in before, because your perception, your perspective is now expanded of what you are actually looking at. And so
love is the answer, David.
Yeah, when you open this, it's not just, like I say, love in the sense of people perceive love, which has been totally, love has been totally discredited in that sense. You have to use words like unconditional love to get anywhere near it. You will look at a situation and you will say, what do I know to be right here? And you do it. There's no, but what are the consequences for me? Because to ask that question would be to consider not doing what you know to be right. And love, in its true sense, would never do that. So over the last 30 years, no matter what's been thrown at me, and I'm not saying that, I'm a special person or anything like that. Anyone can do this because we're all expressions of each other. Therefore, we're all equally of the same potential. I haven't looked at a situation and thought, well, I'm going to get abuse if I say this. I'm going to get ridicule if I say this. Because this says, do you believe it's right to say what you're saying, to write what you're writing? Yes. Well, do it then. And so when we look at the situation that we face now, this would not go through a process of what are the consequences for me. It would say, what do I know that I should do? And it just does it. And I can tell you from, long experience now, that doing what you know to be right is not as difficult as you think it is. When I was a goalkeeper, professional footballer, the worst part for me was sitting in the dressing room, waiting to go out, because going through your head were all the things that could go wrong. And then most weeks, I'd go out and it would all be fine. And I found that, worrying about consequences is what imprisons us, enslaves us. And they want you to fear consequences, fear again, so you won't do what you know to be right. But actually just doing it, you realize actually it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was. And what you get is incredible satisfaction and self-respect because you are dictating your life, your reality, your actions, and not having some dark suit, psychopath or idiot dictating your life for you. And we now have this stark situation where we have this stark choice. Are we going to go on having these idiots and psychopaths, that's the combination that runs the world, dictating our lives to the point where our livelihoods are being destroyed, how many people are going to lose their homes because they can't pay the mortgage, can't pay the rent? How long are we going to go on doing this? What that would say is, not another frickin' second. This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. So why are we all doing it? Because of what I said at the start. Fear of the virus, which doesn't exist, or fear of the consequences when you realize that there is a scam going on. That will get rid of both of them. I know that from my own experience. And to put this in a positive perspective, I was minding my own business. Back in the 1980s, I was a television presenter with the BBC. I was a national spokesman for the British Green Party for a short time. And then very strange things started to happen to me, paranormal things. And I ended up trying to work out what the heck was happening to me in a psychic's front room. Long story short, I've never been to a psychic before. Name was Betty Shine, and I went to her about 3 times, I think, something like that. No, 4 times. The first 2 times, not a lot happened. Third time, she starts going into psychic mode, and I'm going, you know what's going on? She said to me, this was March 1990. She says, I'm being told to tell you, you're going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. That one man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world. And that you are going to face enormous opposition, but they will always be there to protect you. And lots of other things like that, all of which have come true. And that from this moment, you are going to be led to knowledge. And at other times, knowledge will be put into your mind. This is March 1990. And I'm like, something here, literally here, was saying, go with it, go with it. Other parts of me were going, what? From that moment, synchronistically, what people call coincidence, information has come into my life in various ways, people, documents, personal experience, books, all of it, which has been like some unknown, invisible force handing me pieces in a puzzle to put it together. And that's where the information's, come from in this incredibly synchronistic way. And what I was told at that time was that a transformation of human consciousness was coming. And I called, the first book I wrote on this, I called Truth Vibrations, because what I was told was that there was a vibrational energetic change coming, which was going to have 2 main effects. One, it was going to wake people up from their coma that they'd been put in, an induced coma. The most awake would be affected first, but eventually people then solid gold in coma were going to start to awaken, and they were going to start to see that the world, reality, who they were, is not who they thought it was. The other thing I was told would happen as a result of this truth vibration change, and this is why I called it Truth Vibrations, was that all that had been hidden from us was going to come to the surface where we could see it. And when I think back to the world of March 1990, there was absolutely no evidence that anyone was awakening to anything, and certainly not that all that had been hidden from us was coming to the surface. And now we look now. And I've watched over this 30 years, particularly over the last 10, even more over the last 5, more over the last 2, more and more people just looking with new eyes at the world, reevaluating the world, asking questions they wouldn't have asked before. And what's happening in people, those people, is that their consciousness is shifting. It's starting to expand. And as it expands, it moves beyond the 5-sense prison. And it starts to access consciousness, awareness outside of this reality. And that can start to trigger intuitive knowing, a feeling that actually something's not right, or a feeling that what we're being told is not how it is. And people start to question. And when you question this system that we live in, it's found wanting immediately. It's the fact that people don't question it. It's its only way of survival. And I'm seeing this in more and more people. They are expanding their awareness and they're starting to see with new eyes. And the key is opening this, because this is our connection to that expanded state of consciousness. And when you open that, not only do you access intuitive inspiration and all that stuff, you lose the fear that is the human prison. Because love does not fear. Love is the absence of fear, as evil is the absence of love. And so this gives you an extraordinary freedom where you just do what you know to be right, and you just say what you know to be right. So this would have said in the last few weeks, David, if you say what you know to be right, you go beyond this, you're going to get banned by YouTube. You're going to get banned by Facebook, and all the rest of them. This says, you say and you do what you know to be right. And that's what I've done. And so I've got bleeding banned. I mean, the least surprised person that happened was me. But this has a power of its own. And banned by Facebook, banned by YouTube, flies off an elephant's back to this. Because this is what's going to change the world. Because this, closing it, is what's got us into this mess. Because once you close that, and fear will close it, your perceptual point of observation goes here immediately, or here, emotion. And you become imprisoned in the bubble of the five senses. When you open that, everything changes. And when I say I have more power than these people have, that's the reason. Because they don't have that. Psychopaths don't have open hearts. They are heartless. That's why they do what they do. Because they have no emotional consequence for anything they do. There's no limit to what they will do. Bill Gates, I rest my case currently. And so when I said some optimism, what I was told all those years ago, 1990, was this awakening of humanity is not a maybe. It's a gimme. It's just a case of going through the process of it happening. And this lockdown, appalling as it is, has awakened a very, very large number of people to the fact that the world is not like they thought it was, and the forces running it are not who they thought it was. So in that way, this has added to this awakening, this realization that we've been lied to, not just here and there, but about the entirety of our reality, about the entirety of who we are, the entirety of the world that we live in. These massive awakenings to these understandings have been have been able to happen on a massive scale because of this lockdown. And now we have to express that from a concept, from a perception, to a we're not fricking having this. Because this knows that we are all points of attention within an infinite stream of consciousness. Some people call it God, some people call it whatever. It doesn't matter, just what it is, an infinite stream of consciousness. And if we live that, I am all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief experience called David Icke, then that level of awareness, A, is not going to fear anything because it knows this is just a short experience within an infinite state of experience. But it also won't have some dark suit like Matt Hancock, the health minister in Britain, or some Gates-connected psychopath like Fauci in America. It won't have them telling it what it's going to do with its life and whether it's going to sit in its home indefinitely or not. It won't fricking have it. This'll have it. Well, what are the consequences of taking it? This won't have it. And the power, you see, just after I saw that psychic a year later, I was suddenly projected, thanks to a television program, The Wogan Show, into a state of historic levels of ridicule. I couldn't walk down any street in this country without being laughed at, pointed at, ridiculed, shouted after. Going to in a bar, forget it. And here I am sitting here talking to you 29 years later with enormous numbers of people looking at what I'm saying and saying, well, actually, what that bloke's saying makes sense. And I've gone from mass ridicule, where a comedian had to say my name to get a laugh, no joke necessary, to here, doing one thing, doing what I know to be right. Boom, boom, boom. You're this, you're that, you there. Boom, boom, boom. And that's how you do it. You do what you know to be right. And it has a power that can move mountains, can create things that you wouldn't think were possible. If you'd have said to people in 1991, when the whole Wogan ridicule started and went on year after year after year, what do you think about that David Icke bloke? They'd have said, his life is finished. Never going to recover from this. Oh, got mad. And now look at it. Why? Boom, boom, doing what I know to be right. And how we get out of this situation, how we get out of this fascism, is doing what we know to be right. And if enough do it, then the fascists who are behind this, whose power is only the power we give to them, it will be over. Because their power is our acquiescence. That's all it is. I mean, look at Bill Gates. What an unimpressive person. But why is he able to run the World Health Organization and World Health? Because we give him the power to do so. This won't frickin' have it. And when we won't have it, and we're not, see, the currency of control is fear. This doesn't fear. I'll do this to you, we'll do it. I'll say this, say it. I'm going to do what I know to be right. That is an unstoppable force. It doesn't need violence. Last thing we need is violence. This doesn't do violence. But the power of doing what you know to be right and not in ever considering not doing it, if enough people do that, we take control back of our society from a tiny few psychopaths who've hijacked it. And we will inherit a society based on that and not on fear, which is what has controlled human society for about known human history. And, you know, I just have this message for this cult as I sit here. Deleted. I've worked you out, and now I'm going to sort you out. Take a bit of time yet, but it's coming. I've come here to sort you out, and I will. To be continued.
Well, David, I had an experience 26 days ago after our last episode out there where I opened my heart and just said, out of love, the right thing to do is to say no. We're not having it. And the brain said, that's a really bad idea, Brian. And the gut said emotionally, you're making big mistakes.
Exactly.
And when I moved forward, I got nothing but other people around the world, millions of them now, that open their heart up and say, yes, yes, we resonate with that move. And it's changed the game entirely. And everything I feared has not happened. None of it's happened. In fact, I've been shocked and surprised with the amount of positive energy that's come my way and our way. And things have literally opened up in front of us and almost charted a course towards this heart-opening experience of just doing it for the right reason, purely that I still fundamentally deep in my gut think that we should be allowed to have this conversation and people should be allowed to listen and make their judgment. And that is my heart. And as I was saying a few days ago, let the chips fall where they may, because...
You know, you just described in your recent experience exactly what I was talking about. And, you know, when you open this, you know, and fear disappears because you're doing what you know to be right. The feeling of relief almost, it's almost like the burden drops because all the fears, you know, what happened there? What happened there? Ooh, what if I do that? What if I do that? Suddenly, gone. I'm doing what I know to be right. And that frequency, if you express it in a level where you live it rather than think it, will attract to you everything you need to achieve doing what you know to be right. You know, all the way through my life, the last 30 years, well, when I say my whole life, if I look back, but over the last 30 years, every time I've needed something and things have just, it's like all is lost. There it is. There it is. There it is. And you reach a point eventually, which is why I'm so laid back about, you know, all that's going on now in terms of attacks on me, you know, in one ear and out the other, don't touch the bloody sides, is because I've had 30 years of experience of knowing that whatever I need to do what I know to be right will be there just when I need it. And this is what happens. This is what happens when you let go of fear and you let go of what are the consequences, which are all just prison guards, is that life, you start living life and stop life living you. That's what happens. And so throw at me what you like, Miss Wojcicki, and all the rest of you, Mr. Gates. Throw at me what you like, and I'll just bat it away. Boom, boom, boom.
And look at what you manifested.
Well, but you've got to know your own power. And this whole cult is about, through your life, is telling you you're not powerful. I'm more powerful than they are. And I'm going to sort them out. I ain't leaving here till I have. So throw at me what you like. Psychopaths. Ain't going to change the outcome.
And look at what happened in 26 days by throwing out and opening up your heart. Now we're broadcasting to over 1 million people in the world without anyone censoring us. That wouldn't have happened unless we had done this and gone all in and not worried about the consequences.
This is the thing, you see. There's something, all these old phrases like old wives' tales and stuff, they have enormous amounts of truth in them. And one is, every cloud has a silver lining. And like what's going on now, you can see it as a cloud. Oh, I'm a victim. You've seen what YouTube have done. Oh, I'm a martyr. I'm not a frickin' martyr. I'm in control of my reality, okay? So where is the silver lining in this cloud? Because there is one. There always is. And you've just described the silver lining. It's taken another direction, which is going to manifest not just another way of communication, but a way of communication that, as much as you can in this world, is not at the mercy of the cult, which YouTube and Facebook are. Well, are they going to delete us today? You don't have to think about that anymore. Already gone. So, no YouTube, no Facebook, possibly no Twitter soon, I don't know. So where's the silver lining in this? Okay, go for it. And this is what happens, all the way through the last 30 years. I've had massive challenges. There's always been a silver lining. And you go down there, and something else opens up. It's amazing. Life becomes an adventure instead of an existence. And this is not me sitting cross-legged on a mountain. Anyone can do this. It's our natural state. This cult has manipulated us into an unnatural state of 5 sense only perceptions of reality. We're more than that. And when we remember that, I remembered it a long time ago. The only difference between me and anyone else is I've remembered who I am. A point of awareness within an infinite state of consciousness, taking on a brief identity in a tiny reality called David Icke. And other people have not remembered. They still think they're Ethel on the checkout or Bill driving the bus. No, that's their experience. It's not who they are. They are all that has been and ever can be, having an experience. And if they remember who they are, they can start having different experiences and take control of their life instead of having life control them. Because that's what has to happen for this cult to run this world. They have to get humanity to give its power to them. I refuse. I will not do it. Up yours, darling. I'm not having it.
Well, I hope everyone here can take this advice and open up their heart and really try to find what that thing is that they need to do, that they can do out of love, and watch that fear evaporate and watch all those things you thought would happen never happen, and instead be joined with all sorts of other people that want to go on this mission with you.
And that's the other thing, is that when you open this, you realize that somebody in another body or another color is just another point of attention, of the same point of attention you are, the same consciousness you are, having a different experience. But what the cult does, because it has to divide and rule, because there's so few of it and so many of us, it has to create fault lines of division. This is where race comes from. This whole Soros-funded woke obsession with race and sexism and all this stuff It's actually literally funded to divide and rule us into smaller and smaller groups of conflict. When you open this, you realize that we are all different expressions, different unique points of attention in the same consciousness. I am you, you are me. You're just a different point of attention and having a different perspective than I am, but we're all the same consciousness. So racism is insanity. It's just another experience, a different experience. That's all it is. We are all each other. And when you do that, when you realize that, then the potential for divide and rule dissipates and eventually disappears. Because I'm not going to judge you because of your race, your sex, or whatever, anything like that. Because it's just an experience, mate. That's all it is. A brief experience. I am you, you are me. We are all each other. Oh, I've got COVID-19. But when you perceive five-sense reality, only five-sense reality, then you are your race. You are your sex. You are your label. A set of labels. And divide and rule becomes piece of cake. When you realize the labels are just experiences and not who we are, just an experience. David Icke's an experience that my consciousness, my infinite awareness is currently having. That's it. And when I leave this body, I will leave David Icke and express my consciousness in a different way. But whatever, I'm still the same consciousness as everyone else is, just a different perspective. And we should celebrate the uniqueness, celebrate the different perspectives. Absolutely, that's part of the infinite variety of infinite reality. But it's just an experience. It's not who we are. And if you identify only with your labels, what do you identify with? I can't, limitation, I'm powerless, poor me, little me. The cult. Gotcha. When you open this, I'm all there is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience. And I'm not going to let some little prat in a dark suit dictate my life. Thank you very much. That ain't having it.
David, I want to live in this world where everyone opens up their heart. I want to be in this place. It sounds like an incredible place.
It is an incredible place.
And it would solve all of these immediate problems in a matter of hours if everybody could do that.
That is the problem. That is the solution. It is as simple as that. That would never sit in its house under house arrest. Because one of the other things that happens when you open your heart is you access not learned intelligence, you access innate intelligence, the intelligence of expanded consciousness. And expanded consciousness would look at this situation. It's a load of bollocks. Yes. So I'm not having it. And, I have this phrase, if you concede to stupid, you become bloody stupid. I will not concede to stupid. This lockdown is stupid. It has no basis in science. The only reason for it is destroy the livelihoods of billions of people to create mass control of the many by the few. That's all it is. So I'm not having it. And if more and more people weren't having it, what are they going to do? They come out of Downing Street, they come out of the White House. We've had a discussion and this is what's going to happen. If enough people say, ain't doing that, where's their power? They have no power. Ain't doing that. Their power is, we don't like it, better do it. The authorities say so. That is the difference between freedom and slavery. Yeah.
I'm going to ask everyone that's watching us right now or listening to us to just take 15 minutes and go somewhere, walk around the block and just think, like, how can you open your heart and make a decision to do something out of unconditional love and not out of fear? And just meditate on this for the next day and do something with it.
I would just say this. Try this for a month. Stop identifying with your labels. I am ours, I call them. I am this, I am that. And just self-identify with being a point of attention within an infinite state of consciousness. And because you're a point of attention within an infinite state of consciousness, you can have a state of consciousness that big, or you can have a state of consciousness potentially infinite. And the only difference between that and that is perception. And more than that, it's self-identity. I am always says, I am limited. There are limits to me. I am label. That says, I am infinite. I can access consciousness ultimately, infinitely. I'm not my name. I'm not my job. These are experiences. I am all that is, has been, and ever can be. Just for a month, go around from the perspective, the self-identity. I'm a point of attention within an infinite state of consciousness, having an experience called my name and my job or my labels. I am not the labels, they're my experiences. I am the consciousness having the experience. Try that for a month. In a month, at the end of a month, probably before, you won't know yourself. You'll be a different person because your point of attention will have expanded and shifted and the world won't look the same anymore.
David, I've been having these conversations for 9 years, and what almost always happens at the end to a lot of the really enlightened individuals is we come to the same conclusion, that we are all one. We are all one energy. I've heard it from different people in different words of different races and sexes and religions, and it all comes down to that. Because again, it's some other knowledge. It's something that's a truism about us as humans, and you've just articulated it. Again, for the 100th time I've heard it here. This is a trend. This is the most important message we can put out to the world. And so I hope everybody watches this. I hope they share this with as many people as possible. This is the one message we should stick on those, satellites that they send out into space. What are we all about as humans? It's this. This is such an important point. So I hope people can take this on.
We are love. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Everything else is what we are programmed to perceive that we are, and that's the enslavement. That's why they want this closed, because once that opens, the world changes. And I tell you how inverted and how insane this world is. You've heard what I've just said about who we are. I've been saying it for 30 years. And I'm called a racist. That's the madness of it all. I've never seen any group that called itself anti-hate that wasn't full of hate. That's the inversion. An irony, the person they're calling a racist hater says we're all each other, and the divisions of race and color and creed and sexuality, just delusions, brief experiences. We are each other. And try dividing and ruling that.
What I think is funny is the last 30 minutes we've been talking about love, and this is what they want to ban from people hearing. And that's our conclusion.
You know why?
Love.
They know that is going to bring them down. That's why they don't want us talking about it. They want us arguing and conflicting and shouting at each other. They don't want that. It's their worst nightmare. That's why the last half an hour has been more dangerous than the first two.
I know. That's the crazy thing. David, thank you. It's always a huge pleasure having you here.
Pleasure.
And we always finish with a message that's similar. It's a message of love. It's a message of confronting our fears. It's a message that we are the power and we can end all of this madness if we just choose to move in that direction. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And thank you to everybody watching. Again, I implore, please click the sidebar, share this with your friends and family on social. Ask them to just give us 15 minutes or go to the last 30 minutes, whatever you want to do. But see if they can consume this, because that's what's going to make the difference. Conversations like this, getting that into people's heads. Again, we're not for revolution and violence. This is about love. And that's going to get us there at the end of the day.
And thanks for everything that you're doing as well, because you've been brilliant in the last 3 weeks. Because we need people to stand up, look the dragon in the eye, and wait for the dragon to blink, because it will.
Yeah, it just did. And I have to say thank you to those 25,000 people around the world that acted out of love, that just did the right thing when I'm sure with the lockdown, the forces are telling them not to do anything with their money, and they put it to where you could have this conversation today. So thank you for those founding members, and thank you for making the Digital Freedom Platform happen today in all of its greatness. And if you want to be a part of that, you can go to londonreal.tv/freedom. And this episode will be here, unedited, uncensored, unbanned, until I'm dead at londonreal.tv/live. It's going to be here. So again, come back, watch it, share it with everybody. David, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate you. All right. I think we've done some great work today. I would say stay safe, but you're always safe. You're always good. You're always putting out the love. And I appreciate you. And I misunderstood you years ago as well, just like most people do when they first hear about you. But every single conversation we had, David, I said, this man is speaking truth. And my brain couldn't figure it out, but my heart felt you. And so I kept pulling you in and bringing you back and bringing you back. And when all this madness happened, I was at the gym down the road when it was still open, and it just something clicked. And I said, David Icke can give us the answers. And that's when I reached out to you. And that was Rose Icke 1. Obviously, Rose Icke 2 happened, and now this is 3. So thank you. This has been epic. And
that's the way home, people. That's the way home. Open the door, and everything changes.
Let's do this. Thanks, David. All right.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. We're out. Bye-bye.